Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. I'm Andy, and joining me in everything is my life partner, Minna.
So, you know how we, at the beginning of the year, always make resolutions.
Yes.
We set big goals and what we're going to do. Well, we're almost halfway into the year, 2025.
Exactly.
So we're pushing to the end of May. And what do you think happened to your goals?
Exactly. To be honest, a lot of people I've been talking about, they don't even remember what goal they set up in January,
That's usually what happens with resolutions, right? You forget about it by February and you just start drinking or
Like the
whatever.
dry January, the dry February, well, it hits March and they're guzzling wine and everything again, or they fell off the workouts, or they fell off their diet, whatever it may be, it's.
Yep. Now you start drinking, you can find parking by the gyms again.
Exactly. And this is so important. So like what you're saying, we're almost right at the half year mark. Like we're literally days away from half year. It's pretty amazing. It's
we actually have months and a few days left to
half a year. Well, June 1st would be technically. No, June 30th.
No.
Okay, well, anyways, we're close to half a year, all right? The point is, a lot of people, this would be a great time to reevaluate, to almost reset the year. Like, what do you like to call it?
I think I call it mid-year reset.
Mm-hmm.
Is just because we're close to the halfway mark, and whatever you are, you want to kind of rethink about your goals for the year and where you are. It could be something as simple as drinking more water, and you probably maybe not even there yet.
Correct. And it is so important. Like recently, I've been talking so much about how people should be really evaluating their health goals, right? Because right now I'm seeing so many people having health conditions. Like in the last week, I have 2 clients that have family members that went to emergency.
Oh, that's sad.
It is sad. The good thing is one of them came out. The other one, it's looking good. It's looking good, right? But the point is, it's sort of scary. People are going to emergencies, and they sort of fell off their health goals, right? They were saying, "Oh, we're gonna do better," and then they just stopped doing their things. And I don't know what the underlying conditions is that why they went to the emergency. But the point is, reassessing your health goals is so important. It's something that you should be doing monthly, not every half a year, right?
Yeah, I mean, modern medicine is great. They can almost always revive you.
Yes.
But I think the goal is to stay away from hospital in the first place, right? What's working, what's not working. Stay away from hospitals, stay away from doctors as much as you can.
Exactly. And once again, if you get in a car accident, you break your arm, yeah, dude, you go to the ER. You have to get that fixed, right? In those type of chronic, not chronic, in those type acute, emergency situations, man, they can literally put you back together, and they did that for me so many years ago. But when it comes down to when you're not feeling well, what you should be doing when you're reassessing your health goals is every time you're not feeling well, check your energy levels, check your stress, how your food is digesting. Like, are you having, proper bowel movements? There's a different way to say it. I'm not going to say it out on TV. but your sleep, your mood, how you're moving. Like recently, I've been following this other functional movement coach, and I was just showing Minna like, these functional movements, which in my head, oh, that's easy, and oh my gosh, they're freaking hard, right? And I do a lot of movement already, and I actually teach this for a living, and yet there are specialists in those areas. So if it's coming down to health goals, always look for someone that you can aspire to learn more from, right? And we should be constantly learning. I'm constantly learning new things about health every day.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about detox a lot. Just reflecting back from where I had eczema
Of course.
all these years since I was birthed, since I was a baby until I was 21, and how I got rid of eczema by 21 is Chinese medicine. Right?
Yes.
So during the time, it seems like magic to me because they give you these herbs and dry bark and dry
fake cockroaches. Yeah.
You drink it, and then I have these serious detoxing bowel movements.
Yes.
Every time, and I did this 3 times a week. Like it's horrendous, and it lasted for almost half a year, and maybe even more. But after that, it's gone, and it never came back.
Exactly.
And it's now that I think about it, it's just a lot of toxin that I accumulated since I was a baby. It just never got rid of it until that horrendous run of. So detoxing is actually very important. No one actually talks about it in that way, but you accumulate a lot of toxins no matter where you are.
Exactly.
And you just need to flush it out.
Exactly. And when we talk about toxins, you see it you're seeing a little bit more. I don't want to say you're seeing it in the news because you're not seeing it in the news. They're sort of hiding it a little bit. But
no one wants to talk about bowel movements.
Yeah. But the toxins that are coming in the food or air or water, and of course, the toxins were, in the shot. And I actually just recently posted that an hour before the show about how doctors, they actually are seeing that there are problems. There's proof coming out, and yet no doctors are saying anything, right? It's like, during the time, maybe they didn't know, which is fine, right? But like I said, it's like when you need to do something with the information, right? Information is useless if you know the information, but don't do anything with it.
Yeah, there's toxins everywhere in our lives. I mean, vaccines, one of them, medications, one of them. I, as a kid, I put a lot of the, what do you call it?
The cortisone.
The cortisone cream, a lot all over my body. And I mean, it takes a long time to detox it out, but that's toxins too.
Oh yeah,
everything is toxins.
That messed up. It messed up her gut. It messed up her liver. Like it actually took a little bit of time for her to get all that out of her system. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, so we talk about your acute injuries that you need doctors for. Chronic is like the opposite, right? You can either trend the right way or you trend the other way.
Correct.
So mid-year is where you want to revisit your own health situation. Are you trending the right way or the wrong way? And it's time to do something about it if you're not going the right way.
Exactly. Like I always say, when your body is giving you signals, headache, sore knees, sore ankles, they're red light signals, right? Don't ignore them. Don't pop a Tylenol to get rid of the pain, because the pain is telling you something. I was just joking a minute, half an hour ago, my ankles are hurting, and it's because of we bought these darn cookies. And I got to tell you, they were amazing, but they had this coconut fluffing on top, and I don't know what it was. It tasted great, but now my body is suffering,
So what are some ways that you can maybe biohack your way to a healthier body?
One of the ways to biohack, first of all, I think intermittent fasting is very first thing. The best way for people is to try the 16-8, right? Fasting, not eating anything for 16 hours and eating an 8-hour window. And technically, that's not really that hard if you think about it. If you say 9 to 5, that's an 8-hour window. You eat between 9 to 5 or 12 to 8 or whatever it may be. And in the 16 hours, most of the time you're sleeping anyway. So, it's really not that hard when people say that's hard. But that's where I would start, and then try to get into maybe a 24-hour fast once a week, as a start. If you want to work a little further than that, definitely we should talk.
And that's something you can do. You can help people do, right?
It's something that we can totally help people do. That's going to lower inflammation. It's going to start the healing progress, right?
What else do you do?
The next thing is, depending on how you're feeling, is check your inflammation levels, right? There are tests for that. There's a lot of blood panels for that. And depending how bad you are, your doctor will say, well, your heart inflammation is out of control. But, you're looking at red blood cells, white blood cells. There's a whole lot into it to look at what your inflammation levels are. That's something that we can help you on. And then, of course, my favorite now in the last 2 years is we need to elevate your stem cells, right? And a lot of people don't realize is as you're getting older not because of your age, you're getting older because you're declining in stem cells. And in the past, stem cells were extremely expensive. You get, these injections of someone else's stem cells that may or may not work, and you may cause a lot of side effects. But nowadays, there's technology that we use and we have that we can share with you for phototherapy to get you to elevate your own stem. So definitely reach out to us, to call, LifeWave X39. And we're seeing so many amazing effects of that.
So we have a guest today, right?
Yes, we have a guest, and good friend of mine, Joshua Sardina, and he's a fellow Life on Track coach with Aaron Lay, and I met him through our coaching group, and he's amazing. We're going to be talking a little bit about what's your self-image. We're going to be right back after this message.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully. A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science, at longevity, at exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take control of your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. Say goodbye to dullness and hello to youthful radiance. And guess what? For a limited time, you get a free cooling eye cream applicator with your purchase. It's time to unlock your inner glow with coolness. So what are you waiting for? Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Imagine a life where every day is fueled by energy, vitality, and purpose. Where age is just a number and your best years are always ahead. Hi, I'm Andy Nam, certified functional nutrition longevity coach, best-selling author, and international speaker. After reversing my own chronic health struggles, I'm now on a mission to help you live longer, stronger, and of course to look younger. I combine biohacking, cutting-edge nutrition, and stem cell technology to unlock your body's full potential. So no matter where your starting point is, I'm going to guide you toward a chronically healthy life. Ready to reverse aging and take control of your future? Connect with me today. Your journey to longevity starts here. Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. And tonight joining me is my dear friend Joshua Sardina. Hey Josh, how are you?
I'm great, Andy. How you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing great. So Joshua is a fellow Life on Track coach with Aaron Lay, and he's a mindset and self-image coach who's helped people reconnect with their purpose and to help transform their lives. He's, of course, also an author. We're going to talk a little bit about that a little later. He's an inventor. He's a husband and a proud father of 4. You know, you're a proud father of 4 girls or 4
daughters. Yep.
4 daughters. That's amazing. Well, you know, I used to be a proud father of 4 cats, but anyways, we still proud father of 4. And his advice, and this is so insightful. The way you see yourself sets the ceiling for what you believe is possible for you. So you need to shift your self-image and you will change your life. That is amazing. I love that advice. So Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a mindset and self-image coach?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Andy. I really appreciate being here. It's a lot of fun.
Of course.
And I love the cars in the background. The way I got started, well, as you know, I used to weigh about 305 pounds. I woke up one day, I was feeling dizzy, I wasn't feeling good, and I ended up going to the doctor and found out that I was diabetic. I didn't know I was diabetic, and my blood sugar was pretty high. What I ended up doing was obviously crying, and my whole life had changed. So I spent the day in self-pity. Then I started doing research on how I could, live with this diabetes. What's the best way to do this? I lost both my grandfathers to complications due to diabetes. Both my parents are diabetic. And so I ended up coming across a video that showed me how to quote unquote reverse my diabetes. And I said, cure. Actually, he said cure my diabetes. I was like, there's no cure for diabetes, right? And so I ended up looking more into this, and I found out. I said, you know what? Fine, let's try it. I'd rather die trying than live with this problem and die slowly.
Correct.
And I went all in, and I ended up finding out what was possible when you put your mind to something, and that's what made the switch. When I decided, see, a lot of people say, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and I understand, but trying's not doing. And of course, that's a cliche. Everyone hears it. Trying's not doing, but it's actually true. You see these little kids at the park, right? And they're running around with a kite, and you say, what are you doing? You say, I'm trying to fly the kite.
Good.
But they're not flying it. They're running around with it. That's one thing to see kids do it. It's a different thing to see adults do it.
Yes.
Right? And they're, I'm trying to succeed. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying with everything I have. Well, why don't you get out of your own way? And it's amazing what happens when you let go and you're willing to just bet the farm, so to speak, and go with the decision and cut off from everything else. You'll hit your goal. And that's what happened. I ended up shedding 90 pounds. I reversed my diabetes. I woke up and what happened here? I'm like, wait a sec. And so that opened up a whole change, a whole mind shift. And I discovered a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor. I get to mentor directly with his son, Brian Proctor, at Proctor's Principles. That's opened the doors to a lot for me. I ended up now working with a neuroscientist by the name of Dr. Jeffrey Fanning.
Love it.
Yeah, and he also worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Bruce Limpton. And this person's training me. So my whole life has changed. So that's why I can say that if you change your mindset, you will change your life.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I think for a lot of people, it's sort of like you said, there was that switch that turned on at some point that you took care of your diabetes, right? And then at that point, you have to decide. You weren't trying to fix it. You know you were going to fix it, right? There's a difference between, like you said, trying and knowing. So can you explain a little bit how that works with this whole self-image? Because, I know you're a mindset shift coach, and but a lot of the self-image has to do with that, right? So a lot of people don't understand, what their self-image is and how that's actually hurting their life.
Well, that's kind of like a two-part answer, right? So everyone has a mind, even though contrary to common belief, everyone has a mind. I can promise you, right? Sometimes we don't always use it, but yes, we all have. And so if you have a mind, it has a setting. It has a set point. Now, if you didn't set it, then someone else set it for you. It could be genetics. It could be your environment, whatever the case is, your family, your friends. Someone set your mindset. So if you didn't set it, it's set for you. But believe me when I tell you it is set. Now, the self-image part is if you don't see yourself doing something, then chances are you won't do it. So this is a twofold part, right? If you follow me.
Yeah.
So when you want to do something differently, and you say, well, I'm not the kind of guy that does that. Well, there goes that
Mhm.
self-image right there.
Correct.
Because I can't see myself doing that. There again, I can't see myself. We think in images, so there's an image.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to have changed results, then you have to change the way you look at yourself.
Mhm.
And perspective, when you change what you look at, in this case yourself, what you look at will change. In this case, you're looking at yourself, so you're changing yourself, right? And make no mistake, if you're going to get a goal, if you're going to change who you are, you have to sacrifice who you are right now. See, when I was diabetic, I was determined to either become diabetic free or die. Literally,
Correct.
I was willing to called my insurance company. I said, excuse me, hey, am I all paid up? Everything's good, right? If I die, something, my wife gets paid, right? Mr. Sardina, are you okay? Are you sure? You're not having any bad. No, I'm not. I'm just checking, because I was all in, and there was a decision.
Mhm.
Okay. So I was willing to sacrifice the 305-pound Josh that had diabetes for whoever was coming next. I mean, you got to remember, I was just starting. So I didn't have a set mindset on where I was going.
Correct.
So that part I developed as I went. And that's something that you should do if a person wants to change. Now I know that's something that's why I say, oh, okay, I'm a coach. So now I turn around and I help the people I used to be.
Correct.
Say, hey, by the way, yes, you can just start going aimlessly and figure it out as you go, but it's best to have a set point. Okay.
Correct.
And once I was able to reverse this diabetes, and you'd be surprised, it didn't take that long. Everyone tells you, oh, it takes forever. No, it didn't take that long. It took me 2.5 months at most.
Correct.
So, and the weight came off really fast. Once you understand, once you make a decision, and it's between this or that, you're going to win.
Correct.
So, but you have to see yourself doing it, and you have to set your mind to it.
I love that, because when you talk about mindset, you're mentioning how your mindset, setting that set point for your mindset, you might be unconsciously being set by someone else. It's almost like unconscious programming, right, from your parents.
Absolutely.
Right. Your grandparents, your teachers, your coaches, and stuff like that. And for the longest time, you had diabetes, and in your mind, you probably said, well, this is normal. Like I said, I had family that died from it. Right. But at some point, there was a point to shift in your life. And that's where I want to ask, what was your shift in life when you said, this is enough and I'm going to change my mind for something better?
Well, it's pretty interesting, because what the habits that we have, we actually pass on to our children. It's called a paradigm, and it is inheritable, right?
Correct.
And so when I saw that my life had taken this turn, I looked at my daughters and I said, no, it's not going to be for them, and it's not going to be for me. So
Correct.
I made that choice not to participate. Now, they said this is a lifelong disease. There is no cure for it. Everyone said it, right?
Exactly.
The hypertension, here's this pill. And I used to, one thing I don't think you ever known, I used to be an EMT when I was a kid. And when we would go in to a diabetic situation, they were looking for four, we called it the diabetic cocktail. We're looking for high blood pressure pills, high cholesterol pills, and we're looking for a diabetes medication. So one has the side effect of the other.
Of course.
And we know that as EMTs, we know that. Or I knew that when I was an EMT, they taught me that. So I decided that I did not want that life for me. And again, it comes down, Andy, to decision. So when you ask me what was that point, I just didn't want it for me, and I didn't want it for my children. I didn't want my kids seeing their dad grow up like that. So I just decided. And it's, you call it the universe, whatever you want to call it, where they say that the universe bends to the will of man. And that was my focus. That was my will. I said, no, this is not where I'm going. Now, a better way of saying that, now that I know better, is this is where I'm going.
Yes.
Okay. And you want to make that decision. It's kind of like when you ask your girlfriend out to dinner and you say, hey, babe, you want to go eat? And she says, yes. And you say, where do you want to go? And she goes, I don't know, anywhere. Then you pull up to the restaurant and she says, oh, no, not this place. I don't want to eat here. Okay. Well, where do you want to eat? Well, anywhere. Well, what do you mean anywhere? I just pulled up to a spot. Right? No, well, no, not here. So the problem is that we focus more on what we don't want. Well, I don't want to go here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to live like this. Instead of focusing, I want to live here. I want to do this, and consciously choose to do that. Now, you were talking about earlier in the segment, you were talking about how your wife was actually talking about how all the gyms are all empty now, right?
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. I love that joke. But the thing is that we don't just go aimlessly. We want to make sure we have a goal in mind.
Correct.
Otherwise, we're at the mercy of whatever comes our way.
Exactly. You know, just listening to you, there's a couple of things I want to share with our client, you know, with our viewers out there, because I think it's really important. You want to be the stop for diabetes. They want to stop with you, because this was a generational disease that you had, right? But you wanted to stop with you, so your daughters are not going to have the same disease, right? So that is so important. You took that first step. But even when you took that first step, let me ask you this. You got to have to, you know, where the self-image comes in now, because I want to talk a little bit about the self-image now, because you made that mindset, that shift to do something about it, right? But then you had to be able to envision what you're going to look like at the end result, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about the self-image and how that determines your results in life? So
again, when if we don't have a proper diet, it doesn't matter how long you go to the gym, you're not going to outwork.
Oh, totally agree. Yes.
Poor diet, right? Yeah. So without a proper self-image, you'll never outwork a poor self-image. You just won't. So when I first started, now, you know, Bob Proctor used to say that, you know, you jump and you'll grow rings on the way down, right? And I love that, because you'll figure it out as you go. I mean, you could either just sit there and examine the whole entire thing and then you just don't get it done, or you could just start going, oh, okay, let's adjust. And what happens is that when we set that self-image and we start seeing ourselves, we already talked about how we don't want to see ourselves, but now let's talk about how we want to see ourselves. And we start moving towards that. And like I said, the universe or matter will bend to the will of man, and when you, or humans, and when you start telling yourself, this is me, this is me, this is me, this is me, and you got to watch that self-talk. If you say, I don't, I can't, I won't, I can't, I you know, then you're talking about the old Josh. You're talking about the old you. And that old guy's gone. You sacrificed him. So we got to talk about the new one, the 2.0, the 10.0, the 10X, right? We're saying, hey, this is who I want to be. This is who I am. This is what I do. And you start seeing yourself. Now we can go into it. I mean, I could show you, share a little bit of what to do. You have to get
you know, if you can share quickly, you know, a few quick tips on how you can bolster what, you know, how to improve your self-image, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 tips that are easily implementable. I think the viewers would be, you know, that would be amazing, because a lot of people want to have a better self-image, but they don't know how.
Okay, so first of all, you have to get in a quiet spot, right? And stop asking yourself how you're going to do it. It's like, you know, a little kid goes to his dad, says, Daddy, I want some ice cream. And the dad says, what do you think, I'm made of money? How are you going to get that? Right? So at a very young age, we are conditioned to answer the question, how? Hurry up, tell me. What's the answer to number 5? And so we're conditioned at a young age to do this. We need to quiet our mind. That's the first step. Quiet your mind, go to a nice quiet spot and relax. Now imagine, see, that's your superpower. It's one of your superpowers. Yeah, we have 5 senses. This is my little stick figure up here representing the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the 5 senses.
I love it. Yes.
So that's called the stick figure, and Bob Proctor always taught it, and I love that. So what happens is that our 6 higher faculties, one of them being imagination, we want to imagine ourselves, and we have to sit quietly and let that come. How do you do that? Well, there's one exercise where you ask yourself a question and you know the answer and you refuse to answer. And what that does is takes you out of thinking in the present to being in the present. Because when you're thinking, you're trying to figure out how, which is fine. But we do want to think, but put it on the bench for right now and relax yourself. Now you start focusing on what you want. Don't try to figure out how.
Correct.
Just focus on what.
Correct.
Now, more important than what you want is why you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want this? Oh, because of this,
Correct.
because of that. And you
Correct.
start
Correct.
focusing on that. The how will come. And this is when you start seeing yourself in a different state of being. And the more you do that, the more you'll realize how to do that. So that's called visualizing. In the meantime, you want to make sure you watch your self-talk. Don't be limiting, saying, I can't do this. Oh, that's impossible.
Yeah.
I can never do
We're
that.
going to jump into about the self-talk, because the self-talk in the second segment. But,
Right.
you know, just to summarize, it's like it's so important to visualize what you want, not how you're going to get it,
Right.
but what you want. That would be the first step in changing your self-image. But
Absolutely.
Keep that thought in there. We'll be right back after these messages.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take control of your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. In the first segment, Josh was sharing with us how to start developing your self-image. And from what I remember, first, you need to find a quiet spot, right? That's very important, right? Second is you need to start visualizing what you want, correct?
Absolutely.
And so when you're visualizing what you want, what's the best way to do that? Should they be writing down a whole list? Like, what is the best way to visualize what they want?
Well, when you start, it's to each their own on this one, right? I mean, you could write it down. But when the only thing is that when you're writing it down and at first, it kind of hinders, right? When you let it come to you, then you write it down. You don't have to be writing it down right away in the moment. But
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but you should write it down. And the reason why is because your mind will remember what your hand does.
Okay.
Sometimes people in the digital age, they'll type it out. Right? You only have 10 fingers, 10 digits, right? And so there's only this is something that when the neuroscientist is teaching me, Dr. Jeffrey Fanning, you only have a certain amount of neurons that are firing when you're typing. But when you're writing, literally there's 10,000 more that are firing.
Wow. Okay.
So this is something that is going to be embedded into your mind. So it's good to write it down, but first just let it come, relax, let it come, let it reveal how you want it or what you want and how it's going to be, not how you're going to get it, but this is how it's going to be. Let yourself get emotionally involved in that, right? Let yourself, don't hold yourself back. And well, how can you get that? When you say that, you close your emotions. And with the subconscious mind be the emotional mind, think about what that word emotion means. It's energy and movement. So emotions is actually what get things done. We need that subconscious mind to move this body into motion. And it's really the habits that we have formed according to the self-image that we have laid out for ourselves.
Correct.
And one thing I didn't mention in the beginning is we don't need to live up to the expectations of who we used to be.
Correct.
And you have these people, well, I knew him back when he lived with his mom and he was a bum and all this and that. Or I knew her back in the day. You know, no, forget about that. You don't need to live up to those expectations and of other people. And you don't need to live up to the expectations of who you think you used to be. Just focus on who you want to be.
I love it. And you know, we just had a little comment there, I think from Jacer, that says, I see you, brother. So, you know, this is awesome. You know, we're getting some engagement. But, you know, here's another one. Shout out from the Proctor community. So, yes, this is
all right.
So great, you know. But it is so crazy. It's sort of like what you said, is like just let it come naturally. Because a lot of people, they write down without actually knowing what they want. So you want to be sitting down and visualizing what you want, and then you write it down.
Yes, because the other way you're intellectually trying to figure it out.
Correct.
Right. You're not.
And then you mentioned in the first segment, we have to be careful about the self-talk. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like how, you know, what is self-talk, and how would that derail you?
Well, self-talk can derail you real fast, and I like the way you brought that up, derail, because when we're having this visualization, we're on what's called the train of thought. And if you're on a negative train of thought, you attract negative things to you. And you notice that, hey, there's a positive train over there. How do I get that? The switch track is called feeling. Feeling is a secret. Neville Goddard speaks about this in your emotion to get to the other train of thought, right? But if you're talking to yourself negatively, or you've been brought up with, we don't do that. We're not the family that really does that. Right. You know, we don't have a lot of friends. We can't afford to go to nice places. And so when you start trying to, like a person that loses weight, unless they see themselves in a different way, they're going to go right back to what they lost because they're programmed to find what they lost. So you need to shed the weight or release the weight. You don't want that weight. Get rid of it. Whatever the case is that you're trying to change, right? So that now you're programming and you're talking to yourself in a new way. So that if you talk to yourself in a negative way, I can't, I won't, I don't, instead of I will, I am, and I do, right? Then you're gonna completely miss the mark. Correct. But if we continue to talk to ourselves in a positive way, Josh, you know, or Andy, you're doing great. Yeah, sure. Sometimes there's a hiccup, but I really, really appreciate the fact that you get up every day and you self-talk. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Correct. These exercises, you know, look yourself in the eye. It's going to feel real funny at first. It's going to really feel funny, right? Correct. First time I said Josh, and I started laughing. I'm like, wow, I'm losing it. But the science has proven that this is absolutely true. Why? Because we have a personal image and we have a public image. The public image is Josh is that, or you are this. But that private image is I am. So when we speak to ourselves on all three levels, the intimate level of, hey, Josh, you know, you're doing this. Correct. Intimate friend. Or, hey, Josh is this. That's the public image. But when I talk to myself and I say, I am doing this. Now you're addressing yourself on all three levels. And so that's what we want to do when we are doing our self-talk. And we always want to make sure it's a positive thing. I love the way Brian Proctor always says is, would you be friends with a person that talks to you the way you talk to yourself?
I love that. I heard that before. And I think that is so amazing. And, you know, I just want to dive a little bit into that because a lot of people, they don't know how amazing your mind is. So regardless if you say you can or you can't, both of them are true. Your mind's going to bring it to fruition, right? It's going to come true whatever you say. So it's like you want to say you can, you I am this, or
Yeah,
you know,
Henry
I
Ford.
can do this, right? So
Yeah.
you know, I think that is very important, because whatever you think about, you bring about, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And Henry Ford was credited for that phrase where, you know, whether you think you can, you think you can, you're right.
Yeah.
So
See,
we
there
want,
you go. See, you know,
right.
I read all these quotes. I don't remember everyone that says it, but you know, it is so true, right? Because like so many of us is the first thing that comes into our mind is we can't, and it is so ingrained from us, either from our parents or coaches, or you know, like you said, you're talking a little earlier when you're a kid, right? You're reaching up for the candy and stuff like that. Slap your hand, you can't do that, right? And after a while, you keep hearing can't, and that becomes your default. That is all your programming that you didn't even know that you're being programmed, right?
Yeah, even how, you know, when you question that's a form of self-doubt. Well, how am I going to do that? How's that going to happen?
Correct.
Hey, relax. Do you want it? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want it, it's yours.
Correct.
And it's plain and simple. If you want it, it's yours. I mean, you know, the scriptures talk about this. Science talks about this. I mean, if you want it, it's yours. And
Correct.
so, but you just have to look into it. That's it. I mean, that's one thing I would encourage your viewers to get a good self-image book, right? I mean, get my book, right?
Yeah,
13
yeah, we're
Reasons
going to
for
talk about your
Success,
book
right?
soon, for
Right,
sure.
right. But in this way, you can start seeing that it goes to a car. You learn how to drive a car because you know you have to know what it is and how it works. Well, what about you? If you don't know what you are and how you work, now how are you going to get the best use out of yourself? I guarantee you, someone's going to get the best use out of you. And like I said before, if you don't set your own mindset, someone's going to set it for you. Either environment, paradigm, or in genetics, something is going to set it for you. And you're going to be set to that thermostat setting, whether you like it or not. You're like, man, it keeps getting cold in here. No matter how much heat I put on that fire, it keeps getting cold. Well, then turn the AC off.
Yes.
But you're the one in control of the setting.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So when you start realizing that you're in charge, it's like eating. Here again, we're going to go back to eating, right? Maybe I'm hungry. But the good news is you're in charge of what you put in your mouth. The bad news is you're in charge of what you put in your mouth. Either way, you're in charge, right?
Yes.
So you can make or break yourself. And that as soon as you realize how much power you have, it's empowering.
Correct.
But once you accept how much power you have, you become invincible, unstoppable.
Exactly. I love that, you know, and I think the biggest problem is just like even me when we started the show, like a lot of people know what they're doing, you know, what they shouldn't be doing, but they're not accepting it, right? They're not accepting it. And if you don't accept it, you're not going to do something about it, right? So I think that is so important. Is the first thing is accept where you are, like you said. Like if your self-image isn't exactly where it is, well, this is where you are. But you have to accept this is not where I want to be, right? You know, I see myself being so much more because, like you said, if you believe you can achieve it, it's going to happen. And I think that is so amazing. And you know, you drop the bucket a little bit about your book. So what's your book all about? What's your book all about?
So it's 13 ingredients to your success, and it's steps that you can take so that you could you know, for personal growth, personal and professional growth. I once heard that professional growth is just personal growth in a business, right? And I love that. And so what you want to do is what this, you know, here again, take in these steps. Start getting a clear image. When we think in images, and a confused mind that does not have a clarity or a clear image on the direction it wants to go, it will not go anywhere. Correct. Meaning that person will not move because he doesn't know here's the how, right? Because he's still trying to figure out the how. Don't try to figure out the how. Just figure out the what and figure out the why, and the how will come. And as it, you know, you see on the, thanks for the picture there, but you see how the light gets brighter on these steps.
Yes.
So as you're walking towards this pathway, you don't know how you're going to get to New York from San Diego, but you're going to get there if you keep going east, right?
Correct.
So as you go, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter, right? It gets more clearer. And that's why we want clarity. And this book actually has there's I've read so many books. You see them right here behind me. And what I do in this, hopefully I did a good job, is simplify the information.
Mm-hmm.
It's like driving a stick shift or driving a truck. You're switching gears, right? At first, the guy beside you thinks you put hydraulics in it, and you're bouncing all over the place because you can't work the clutch. Next thing you know, you're drinking coffee and working the radio, and you're shifting real smooth, and you probably even floating the gears, right?
Yes.
But the thing is that's called neuroplasticity.
Correct.
And that is your brain's ability to start firing things so it becomes more smoother. Well, success is the same thing. When you keep doing something, that's the third step that I would like your viewers to, once they visualize and they start working on their self-talk, is start acting as if. Don't fake it till you make it. Start acting as such. And people say, well, I'm not a criminal officer. Okay, but you stole that. So you're acting like one, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, put your hands behind your back, you are a duck, right? So but the same thing goes the other way. If you act as the person that you want to be, then congratulations, you're that person. You're conducting yourself as such. You might have just started off. And here's the thing, and I'll leave you with this because I know we're going to wrap up here pretty soon, right? You got to start somewhere. And they say, well, what's that guy? Who's that girl think she is? Or who's that guy think he is?
Correct.
He's done this, or he just starts out. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But watching people soar is like putting kites in the sky. And once you got it up there, it's effortless. It's beautiful.
Correct. Exactly. Yes.
Like, oh, look at this kite in the sky. Look at this at the end of the park. Oh, mommy, daddy, look at this, right? Oh, yeah, but he was a fool that was trying to run and get it off the ground. And he just, he just started.
Correct.
Ignore the naysayers and stay away from the crab-like effect where they'll pull you back in the bucket. No, misery loves company. You just leave those people, leave that alone, okay? And lead by example. Now, you'll never hear when somebody, actually, I would love to hear this. It'd be hilarious. You see an eagle flying in the sky and everybody says, look at that bird. And somebody says, yeah, you should have saw that bird before it was able to soar, before it had feathers, before it was in a nest, it was completely helpless. And oh man, that bird was so ugly. Really? We laugh because it sounds stupid, but yet people do it to each other.
Yes. So I totally agree.
Not only do we want to watch our self-talk, but if someone is talking down and being negative or a naysayer to you and your goal or whatever it is, you don't have to get emotionally involved in that. You don't even have to convince that person that they're wrong. You just have to know that this is what you want. This is why you want it. This is the direction you're going. Yes. And that's what you're going to have. So what I encourage, my last thing, my little rant here.
Yeah, definitely.
I want you to wake up. I want you to figure out what you want and then go get it.
I love that.
Figure out what you want. Wake up and go get it. It's yours. Correct.
So Josh, if people wanted to reach out to you, which is the best way to reach out to you if they want to, get like a consult from you and stuff like that, or maybe even just some ideas on where to start, or if they, most people don't even know what their self-talk is talking to them unless someone else sees it from the outside view, right? So I think that's really important. Sometimes you do need a coach to coach you.
The first thing they can do is they can get my book. It's going to be available at the end of the month on the 31st. I believe it's going to be on Amazon. So
nice. Okay, yeah, we're going to show you a book again there. Okay. Love it.
So go ahead and grab a copy of that. And then also you can reach out to me. You see my email there. That's my personal direct email that I use for the coaching. And then also you can reach out to me on my Instagram as well. Shoot me a DM and we can set up a time so that it works for both of our schedules and be able to see where we can help you out with your self-image and the directions of your goals and what you want.
I love it. Thank you so much, for sharing all your vision about mindset and self-image, because I think we need a lot more of it today, more so than others, because there's so much people putting everyone down. It's time for us to say, hey, you need to shed that image and see who you can be. And like you said, just move forward and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just remember, guys, be inspired and aspire to acquire your hopes, goals, and dreams. They're yours.
I love it. Thank you, Josh. Thank you for being on the show, and we will talk soon.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody. Christy here with Kids Corner. So Memorial Day is now upon us, and I got to thinking about the meaning of Memorial Day. And I know that in our society, it's about remembering the people who have served in the military and, you know, that honored tradition. And I do think that is important. But I think we've lost some of the things that maybe we need to memorialize in our own lives, like our families and our own history and the place we've come from and our growth and expansion in this life. And so I dug out some old pictures and decided that this Memorial Day, we're gonna honor the memory of grandparents and parents and great-grandparents and the family members that have had a great impact on our lives in some way. So, for example, I have family recipes that I'm the only one in the family that still has and can make. So I got to thinking maybe I would do something to send those out and teach some of my family members how to do them, because it might be fun and they might like it. So I just kind of think about how you can change Memorial Day into something that's more significant and personal to you and your family, and bring that to your children, because that's a beautiful gift to give them. All right, ciao for now.
Is like a lightning rod. It's energy that's coming in, tremendous energy that's coming in. It's up to every single one of us of what we're going to do with that energy.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. You know, when it comes down to, you know, your self-image, I think so many people struggle with that. And Josh, he breaks it down in easy to understand terms. I love that about him, because, like, you know, there are so many professional development out there, but it's like at such high level, and like, unless you're reading all these books like he is and some of us are reading, then you start understanding it. Sometimes you have to read it like 2 or 3 times, but he had figured it out how to condense it down into easy to understand small bites and wrote a book about it. I think that's just amazing. You know, it's like every time I talk to him, it's sort of, oh wow, I learned that 5 years ago, and he just refreshes it back, and then he puts it in a way that is so easy to understand that you can implement in your life right away.
Yeah, self-image is something that we brought over from our parents.
Yes,
for sure. You know, my parents call me dumb, your parents call you stupid. So
yes.
we grew up with it. It just takes a lot of reading to get out of that image, right? So it's very helpful. I think it's very insightful.
Exactly. It's funny, you know, growing up, my brother used to call me a piece of wood, you know, because piece of wood's dense, right? And I was saying I didn't quite understand it, but he was calling me stupid all my life, and I'm the only one that sort of broke out and done crazy stuff. So, you know, I don't know.
A lot of reading.
Yeah, you know, but like in the last 10 years, 12 years, a lot of personal development. You know, we got a lot of books too, and you know, and I think it's sort of important because you need to implement what you read. Just one final thought though, when he's talking about seeing where you are and then seeing who you want to be, and he was talking about the kite, right? You know, the kite. And a lot of people say, oh, when the kite's up in the sky, it's flying so cool. But people don't see the work.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so this little kid could be running around for half an hour, right? You know, pulling on the kite, but once it's up there, it becomes effortless. Right. So like, you know, his visual imagery was perfect because once you look at the kite, wow, what a beautiful kite. You know, look how easy it is. The wind is just carrying it. That is the same for our life. Right. So if you aren't where you are right now, and you just like you said, sit down in a quiet place, let it come to you, you know, visualize where you want to be and start acting as if you can be there. Right. You're not lying to yourself. You're just making those steps and, you know, it'll come. It'll come. The steps will come. You don't need to know the how.
For sure. So who do we have next week?
So next week we have Shoshana Chong, and you know, she is coming back. She was supposed to be, you know, our guest a month ago when our dear Patches passed away. But you know, I'm very excited to see her next week. And we're actually gonna be in Vancouver next week too. So we're gonna be celebrating a few things next week.
So join us back here on Friday, 7 p.m. CST. We are on e360tv.com. You probably know that you're watching us anyways. Or, you know, on our YouTube channel, Chronically Healthy Life.
And of course, always, if you want to learn a little bit more about longevity, you know, I got my own book, Longevity is a New L-Word.com. Very easy read, download it, and it shares all my biohacks, how to live a longer and healthier life.
And of course, we have a new skincare line at coolness.com. Check us out. We have Memorial Day specials. Everything's coming up. So
exactly. So we'll see you next week, and thank you for being on the show.